games in a row at home. Just take us through the week.
Kind of a chance to step back and recap after 7 games, 5-2 with, again, I'm not going to sit up here and change who we've been all year. We live in a reality world, and we talk about it all the time. We know our 5 wins are against the teams at the bottom of the league right now. It's strange to see Tennessee in that league, but that's where they're at right now. So we know these next 7 games are against teams in the top half. So new challenge. We are confident. We're playing pretty good. You'll have to play better than pretty good to win any of these next 6 or these next 7 games.
Y'all got to a slow start at Florida. What do you think led to that, and then how did y'all dig out of it?
3 games in 6 days. Poor planning on my part. Poor execution on our kids' part. Poor fighting through the mental fatigue. You talk yourself into be tired. They shouldn't have been, but they were. I thought Florida had a great game plan to start, and I thought our adjustments and settling in the second quarter, it was so diametrically opposed, though. I know exactly. I felt the same way. Your 7-point quarter to a 30-point quarter doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think that's what it was because we snapped out of it. If we hadn't have snapped out of it, then I'd had to have delved a little deeper. But I think it was a little bit of combination of poor preparation on my part, poor preparation on the players' part, and then the sheer volume of playing 3 games in 6 days.
Look at Malika's numbers, the last 4 games, last 3.5. Just what have you seen from her that, especially 79 minutes in the last 2?
I think a confidence that she's not coming out. I think even for the first part of the year, we were playing IT 17 to 20 minutes a game. There's always that a little bit of look over your shoulder, and that's natural for a kid to have. She doesn't have it now. I think she's playing fearlessly. And I think she plays best when she's that way. So that confidence is exuded. And then I think as a result of that, she's being a little bit more aggressive. I think there were times early in the year she got tentative and settled for jump shots where now she's getting it back, getting it to the basket, getting to the free throw line. And, again, knocking on wood, she's making free throws in the SEC play, whereas she wasn't early on.
She's also finishing around the basket maybe better than she has her entire career. What's kind of led to that with her?
I think just an accumulation of a lot of days of practicing it. We've got a really rugged group of guys team this year, and they foul her pretty good, and we let them. So I think we've done that. Plus, going back to what you were talking about, just that confidence. But she's worked at it more, and it's accumulated more. And once she gets in there, we're all expecting it to go in when she gets around the basket or get fouled, one of the two.
So when Galden comes back from injury, then is that going to force some kind of tough discussions between you and assistant coaches on playing time for her?
Probably, yeah. Or we find a way to play them together. We talked about doing that early in the year, but then we got in some foul troubles and it just didn't work out. So I think the conversation will not be does Mal play 38 or 39 minutes. I think the conversation will be do you play them together some. But we'll see how that goes. But I think that's part of the thing that's beautiful about this team. We'll make adjustments as it goes. But, yeah, that's what the conversation will be.
You mentioned the stretch you're getting ready to go through, but to have the confidence coming off a 4-game winning streak, how much does that change maybe the narrative of how you would approach?
Well, I don't think if you're not on that 4-game winning streak, you don't have the confidence going up a team like Georgia, who's picked, I think, 3rd in the preseason poll, maybe 4th, 3rd or 4th. And the kids kind of look at you like, Coach, we can do this. Whereas in the past, I think maybe you don't do that. But I think that's what those wins do. It gives you that confidence to go up against a team that was made a deep run in the NCAA tournament, had really high expectations. I think if we'd have been 2-5, it's a different type of atmosphere. The practices just feel different. When you're on a little bit of a winning streak, you've got a little extra step, and all those things, we're going to need all those because, again, this is a Georgia team that when you look at them on film, they're a lot like looking at Mississippi State. They have tremendous size around the basket, and not just in one person, in a number of people. And then defensively, they can win a game with defense. There's not as many teams in our league as there used to be that do it this way, but Georgia can win a game without scoring. They can do it to you on defense. They can take away the things that we're really good at. They can keep us from driving. They can keep Mal from getting it. They've probably got the best perimeter defender in the league in Taja Cole, who's back. She didn't play last game, but I did a little research, and I think she's coming back for this one. Probably the best perimeter on-ball defender in our league. And then, when you've got Robinson and Jenna Stady back there blocking shots and Stephanie Paul, it makes scoring at a premium. So they could beat us with just sheerly with their defense. So it's going to be a fun matchup to see if offense wins out over defense. But this is a really, really good Georgia team. I know they're coming off a loss to Alabama, but that's one of those outlier things.
So if it's similar to Mississippi State then and kind of the matchup, or what did you learn from trying to guard, Mississippi State's two towers down there at the back to be similar for this?
Yeah, that you don't try it with a triangle and two. We tried that, and Jordan Danbury had a career night, and ever since she's been playing extremely well. So I think we've got to be a little bit more strategic when it comes to that. But I do think this. I think we learned in that second half against Mississippi State, if you stay aggressive, you can find shots. They're not maybe the shots you're used to finding, but there will be shots to be had. And I think we learned that in the second half against those guys where we could find some even against size. So we'll carry a little bit of that over. We have to be really good in transition, but you can't get to transition against these guys unless you finish with stops. You can't get it out of the net fast enough to get it up the floor. Their defense is going to be set. So we need to be going against their transition defense way, way more often than their half-court defense.
Mike, we haven't even mentioned Taylor. Is she playing as best as she has played since she's been here? And along those lines, is Malika maybe playing as well as she's ever played?
Well, Mal, since we've been here 2 years, yeah, I think so, with the confidence. She may have played better her freshman and sophomore year. I didn't get a chance to see all that. But Taylor had a stretch in Italy where she was pretty dang good. And that was when we first got really excited because she went home with the summer, came back with a really refreshing outlook of doing what we needed to do and what she needed to do to get on the court. She was really good in Italy. But she's been good these last 4 games. We just ran some analytic stats, and we're looking at it, and she and Chelsea are literally neck and neck with the best analytic performance over our 5-game win streak. So you look at it over the course of the year, she and Kiera are still about 50-50 in minutes played, possessions played, all of that stuff. One of them's played a little better in portions. The other one's played a little better at other times. But Taylor's energy and sticking to her role, other than one possession in the last 4 games, she actually made the shot, so she's not going to tell you it was that. But, she had a little heat check and made a little elbow jump shot. But I think she's really performed in her role as well as anybody the last, 3 weeks.
I didn't know she talked, let alone give it to you. Throw a little swagger.
Oh, she's got swagger. I had to set her down for a minute the other day. I was afraid she was going to talk a little too much at Alabama. But you love that fire. You got to have that a little bit, And she's one of those kids. She doesn't say much, but when she says something, she said it.
Latest bracketology come out, and y'all are mentioning there. Do you talk about that with your team? How do you handle those expectations?
We do talk about it, but we also talk about the realistic point of it being, hey, our 5 wins are who they're against. And we've got to have more than that to stay in the bracket. I follow that stuff religiously. I've been charting it for 20 years. Coach Blair and I used to have contests on who could name before a bracketology even invented, we used to do it. So I've got a cabinet full of back RPIs and brackets and everything. So, it's like anything else. As long as they're doing them, I'd rather be in it. And if they're doing them, let's be in it. So I've been following it, going back and forth from last 4 out to first 4 out to now in. But I also know how quickly that can change. It's a product of when Charlie decides to release it, or there's one going on high post hoops now too. You got 3 or 4 different people doing them. I'd rather be in the conversation because if you're not in the conversation come, this time and next month, you're probably not going to get there. We know what it's going to take. We've talked to it about with our kids. The history of what 8 wins in the SEC means. And I've also really cautioned them that this might be the year an 8-win team from our league doesn't get in. Our RPI as a league is down. It's the lowest it's been in 10 years. So there's a chance that you get to that magic number. So we don't talk about results. I will tell you that. We'll talk about news and we'll talk about things people are talking about, but we're not focused on the results of it. If we do that, then we lose sight of the preparation and what we got to do, because you start focusing on the outcomes sometimes and you don't make great decisions along the way. So we'll talk about it, but we'll also keep it very real with what it means on January 28th as opposed to when is selection Monday, March the 14th or 15th, something like that. Still a long way to go. Matt, it's a product of who you've played. You know, we've got some pretty good teams in our league that are 2-5, but they've played the top teams in the league too. You know, if we'd have traded that schedule, we might have been 2-5. So you got to keep some perspective on it. But it is pretty cool to pull up the SEC standings and see, because of alphabetically ranked teams, it shows us the third team down. It's a good mail out, but we're realistic about what it is. All right.